All right. Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
And today we are diving into a handful of words, a pocket full of words,
Yes.
and we're going to take a look at their definitions.
Right.
And I think that you're going to be surprised at just how much we can dig out of these very, very simple words.
Yeah. I think a lot of times we take for granted
Yeah.
the words that we use every single day. But
Right.
when you actually sit down and start thinking about them,
Yeah.
there's a lot more to them than meets the eye.
Absolutely.
You know?
So we're going to start out with a couple of words: afraid and angry.
Yeah.
And these are pretty basic words that I think most of us,
Right.
we learned them when we were a kid.
When we were little. Yeah.
But think about the power behind these words.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe just the
Huge.
sheer power of them.
Yeah. And they're often the root of, more complex emotions and actions. I mean, if you think about it, fear.
Yeah.
Fear is a primal instinct, right? It's a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
Keeps us safe.
Yeah.
It's what kept our ancestors alive.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to think about how that same fear can influence the decisions we make
Well,
every day in our modern lives, right? Like it might hold us back from taking risks
Right.
or pursuing our goals or, speaking our minds sometimes.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think that, fear is one of those things that I struggle with all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to let fear
Right.
dictate your actions.
Totally.
Um, so let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and talk about agree and reply.
Okay.
And these are also words that we use every single day,
All the time.
and they're very important for communication.
Right. Absolutely. They're central parts of any conversation.
Right.
And I think they highlight the importance of clear communication
Hmm.
and active listening and, even a simple exchange. Like
Yeah.
someone saying, the food is very good at that restaurant.
Yeah.
And then replying, I agree with you.
Yeah.
That shows a shared understanding.
Right.
It really is the foundation of any meaningful interaction.
Well, and it kind of speaks to, I guess, taking the time to listen
Absolutely.
and actually,
Understand.
digest what the other person is saying.
Yeah, you're not just waiting for your turn to talk. You're actually hearing them
Right.
and processing what they're saying
Yeah.
and responding in a meaningful way.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on to arrive and finally.
Okay.
And these words kind of speak to, I think, a passage of time
Yeah, definitely.
and anticipation.
Yeah, a sense of anticipation or even tension sometimes.
Yeah.
Think about like waiting for a bus that's supposed to arrive at 4 noon.
Right.
You're constantly checking your watch,
Yeah.
looking down the street and wondering when it's going to show up.
And then that feeling of relief
Exactly.
when it finally gets there.
Yeah, or finally finishing a difficult task or a project that you've been working on.
Right.
It's like, finally, I can relax.
Yeah.
And, these words can even be used to create suspense in storytelling.
Absolutely.
Think about like a character who's waiting for something important to arrive.
Right.
Or a storyline that finally comes to a resolution.
Right. Yeah. That sense of anticipation.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move on to attack and hunt.
All right.
And, these words have some pretty strong connotations.
Mhm.
Attack, obviously,
Yes.
has that very aggressive
Yeah.
connotation.
Yeah,
But hunt, I think, is really interesting
it is.
because it has that historical context,
Yeah.
of people going out
Right.
and hunting for food
With their bows and arrows.
with bows and arrows,
And spears.
and spears.
Yeah.
But it's evolved to have these more metaphorical meanings as well.
Absolutely. Like we hunt for jobs.
Yeah.
Or we hunt for solutions to problems. We even hunt for the truth sometimes.
Right. And it's interesting how, these words that had very literal meanings
Yeah.
have evolved to have
Or-
these broader
Or figurative
meanings.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go from something a little more abstract to something a little bit more concrete.
Okay.
Bottom and middle.
All right.
Very basic words about position.
Yeah.
But, think about how often we use these words.
All the time.
The bottom of a shoe,
Right.
which might have a hole in it.
Yeah, exactly. Or the middle of the Canadian flag.
Yeah.
With the maple leaf right in the center.
Right.
So they're very basic concepts,
Yeah.
but they help us understand where things are in relation to each other.
They give us a sense of place.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to clever and cruel.
Okay.
Now, these words are interesting because they represent kind of opposing
Yeah.
character traits.
Right.
And they can have a big impact on how we judge others.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
a clever person, like a boy who comes up with a good idea to solve a problem
Right.
is often admired for
False.
their intelligence and their resourcefulness.
Right.
But cruelty, on the other hand,
Yeah.
the intentional infliction of pain or suffering
Yeah.
is something that's universally condemned.
Right.
It's seen as a negative trait.
Absolutely. And it's interesting,
Mm-hmm.
that we can use these single words
Yeah.
to basically sum up
Yeah.
someone's personality.
Yeah, their character,
Yeah.
whether they're good or bad.
Right. Okay. Let's move on to a couple of words that I think are associated with playfulness and deception.
Okay.
Hide and trick.
Right.
And hide always makes me think of, when I was a kid,
Yeah.
playing hide and seek.
Yeah.
You know,
Classic game.
yeah, running around trying to find a place to hide.
Right, and hoping that no one would find you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then trick, like a magic trick.
Right.
Or,
Or card trick.
yeah, card.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that, that
Yeah.
you can have fun with these words,
Yeah.
but they can also have,
Yeah.
more serious connotations as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's move on to a couple of words that deal with quantity and time.
Okay.
Lot and moment.
Right.
And these are words that I think are interesting because their meaning
Yeah.
can change depending on the context.
Absolutely.
So, for example, you could have a lot of apples in a basket,
Right.
but you could also have a lot of stars in the sky.
Yeah.
And those are two very different
Very different quantity.
quantities, right?
Yeah.
And then moment,
Mm-hmm.
a moment can feel like an eternity
Right.
if you're waiting for some important news.
Yeah.
But it can also feel very fleeting
Right.
if you're running late for a meeting.
Yeah. It all depends on your perception
It does.
and your state of mind.
Okay, so let's wrap up
Okay.
with a few words that often evoke positive feelings. Pleased, promise, safe, and well.
Yeah.
And I think that these words, they all
Yeah.
point to
They kind of have a
things of the
Something.
positive
Well,
things,
kind of-
temptation. Yeah,
yeah.
they create a sense of security and well-being and optimism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when someone says they're pleased, it suggests that they're happy.
Like if you got a phone call from someone that you love.
Right, exactly.
No.
Or, if someone makes a promise,
Yeah.
it gives you a sense of reassurance.
Right.
Like if they promise to return something that they borrowed,
Right.
or if you feel safe,
Yeah.
it means that you're protected from harm.
Like wearing a seatbelt.
Exactly, like wearing a seatbelt in a car.
Yeah.
And then, well, it indicates that something is being done skillfully or properly,
Yeah.
like someone who dances well,
Right.
they're graceful and they're talented.
So it's incredible how much depth and nuance
Yes.
we've found
Oh, no.
in these seemingly simple,
It's a simple words.
yeah, everyday words. And it
Mhm.
really just highlights
I'd say.
how important it is to pay attention to the language that we use
Right.
and that we encounter every day,
Yeah.
because even the most common words can have hidden depths,
Yeah.
and they can shape our thoughts and our actions
Right.
and our interactions with others.
Absolutely.
So I encourage you to really think about the subtle ways in which these words
Yes.
influence your understanding of the world.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much
Yeah.
for diving in with us today.
Absolutely.
And we will see you on the next deep dive.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.